A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima innaka Hamidum Majid. रब शरह ली सदरी व यस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली रब्बना ज़िदना इल्मा या मुक़ल्लिबुल क़ुलूब सब्बित क़ल्बी अला दीनिक आमीन. Today we'll start new juz, new para, and this is the fifth one, in which we will complete the third part of Surah An-Nisa, and we will complete from verse number 24 till 31. وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَأُحِلَّ لَكُمْ مَا وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ أَن تَبْتَغُوا بِأَمْوَالِكُمْ مُحْصِنِينَ غَيْرَ مُسَافِحِينَ فَمَا اسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْهُنَّ فَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ فَرِيضَةً وَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِيمَا تَرَاضَيْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الْفَرِيضَةِ Inna Allaha kana aliman hakima. Forbidden to you in marriage are married women except those whom you own. Allah has ordained these injunctions upon you. Lawful for you are all women besides these that you seek with your wealth in chastity, nor lechery. Those from whom you seek to derive benefit, give them their specified dowry. There is no sin on you should you agree on something else after the specified amount. Verily, Allah is all knowing, the wise. A married woman can be married to another man only when her husband dies or divorces her, and then she completes her iddah. Even if her current marriage was not consummated, she still cannot be wed to another until released from her present husband. The only exception is when Muslims capture kuffar a woman during a jihad. In this case, the Amirul Mumineen may distribute these women among the Muslim soldiers. When each person takes possession of his slave girl, it will be lawful for him to cohabit with her even though she was married to her country. The law is that as soon as he leaves the boundaries of her native Kafir countries, Darul Harb, and enters the Muslim country, Darul Islam, her marriage terminates. She will then be lawful for whichever Muslim soldier she is given to be Amirul Mumineen. This is what the verse refers to when it states, except those whom you own. Narrated by Muslim, page 470. Lawful for you are all women beside these that have been mentioned thus far. Those whom a person may lawfully marry include all his cousins as well as the wives of his maternal and paternal uncle after they have passed their iddats after being divorced or widowed. This is only permissible on condition that no other relationship of muharramat exists between the man and woman. The general connotation of the verse may include many more women, but some not mentioned in the verse are still forbidden. Much has already been discussed, and the balance may be referred to in the detailed books of jurisprudence. That you seek with your wealth, this verse underlines the importance of the dowry, even though the complete agree not to settle for a dowry, it will still be binding upon the husband, the minimum of which, according to Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimullah, is 10 dirham. If no dowry was stipulated at the time of contracting the marriage, it will still have to be paid later on. This was discussed in Surah Baqarah. in chastity, not lechery. This indicates that the objective of marriage should not merely be sexual gratification, but it should be contracted with a view to protect one's chastity and honor. Together with this, a Muslim should also intend to procreate and to safeguard his case. Although money may also be spent in fornication, the objective of this vile deed is merely sexual gratification. In the process, chastity and honor are sacrificed at the altar of mere physical satisfaction. The objective of fornication is never to reproduce and use a child be born. He will never be legitimate. Illegitimate, the illegitimate child is frowned upon by every nation, and it is for this reason that adultery is forbidden by all these religions. The above verse also alludes to the prohibition of the shameless action called muta, which is practiced by certain deviant sects. This is an act whereby a couple cohabit merely to gratify their sexual pleasure without the intent to preserve their chastity nor to procreate. The prohibition of this act is mentioned clearly in the opening verses of Surah Mu'mineen. Allah says, those people who safeguard their sexual organs save on to their wives and slave girls. So indeed there is no blame on them. Whosoever transgress beyond these, then such ones are surely transgression. Verse number 5, 6, and 7. This verse makes it evident that a person may cohabit only with his wives or his slave girls. Those who perpetrate muta neither regard their partners as wives nor do they grant them a share in inheritance. These women can therefore never be lawful for them. Those from whom you seek to derive benefit, give them their specified dowry. This verse emphasizes the importance of paying the meher. According to the relevant verses in Surah Baqarah, a person is required to pay the full meher initially agreed upon before the marriage was consummated. If it was never consummated, then he will only have to pay half. Those people should take heed of this verse who live with their wives for years without bothering to pay her the mahr. There is no sin on your account you agree on something else after the specified amount. It is perfectly impermissible for the couple to alter the initial agreement, that is, if the wife decides to waive the mahar completely or a part thereof. Similarly, it will be permissible for the husband to increase the mahar, and the wife also reserves the right to allow the mahar to be paid off on terms instead of cash. Verily, Allah is all knowing, the wise. He ordains the various injunctions according to His supreme knowledge of the conditions and temperaments of the people. All His orders are full of wisdom, and those who carry them out shall benefit, whereas those who do not shall be punished according to His divine wisdom. Verse number 25. ومن لم يستطع منكم طولا أن ينكح المحسنات والمحسنات المؤمنات ومما ملكت أيمانكم من فتياتكم المؤمنات والله أعلم بإيمانكم بعضكم من بعض فانكحوهن بإذن أهلهن وآتوهن أجورهن بالمعروف محسنات غير مسافحات ولا متخذات أقدان فإذا أحسن وإن آتينا بفاحشة فعليهن نصف ما على المحسنات من العذاب ذلك لمن خشي الأنت منكم وأن تصبروا خير لكم والله غفور رحيم. Those of you who do not have the means to marry a free believing woman should marry from one of your believing slave girls. Allah knows best the condition of your iman. Each of you is equal to the next, So marry these slave girls with the permission of their masters and give them their dowries in a kind manner. And these women should be just not adulteresses, so such that they foster secretive relationships. Once they enter into marriage and then perpetrate lewdness, adultery, they should be given half the punishment applicable to free women. This is for those of you from whom you fear adultery. It is best for you to be patient, and Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. A person may cohabit with his slave girl but may not be married to her. There is no necessity for this since he may legally cohabit with her, and the children born to them will be considered to be legitimate. It is, however, possible that the slave girl may be married to another Muslim person with the consent of her master. The dowry will then become the property of the master. This is discussed in the above verse. According to Imam Shafi Rahmullah, the person who is capable of marrying a free woman cannot marry a slave. Imam Abu Hanifa Rahmullah is of the opinion that a person may marry a slave despite his ability to marry a free woman. The only precondition is that she be Muslim or from the people of the book. However, to do so is considered to be makruh. Uh, it should be borne in mind that the purpose of nikah marriage is the protection of one's chastity and reproduction. This pivotal aspect of marriage demands that the parents pay attention to the upbringing of their children. The children normally learn the language of their mothers. This is why the home language is referred to as the mother tongue, and acquire the traits and habits taught by their mothers. Their deen, religion, belief, etiquettes, character, morals, and all basic education are learned from their mothers. It is for this reason that a person should be particular when choosing a wife. She should be a person of high and noble morality, piety, and cleanliness. If a man is unable to support a free woman or unable to afford her meher, he has the option to marry a slave woman. Then too he should ensure that she is a Muslim of upright and righteous conduct. Allah knows best the condition of your iman. Each of you is equal to the next. It may occur that a slave woman is stronger in her belief than a free woman. The fact that she is a slave should not deter a person from marrying her, since he will make a good wife. He should therefore proceed to marry them with the permission of their masters and give them their dowries in a kind manner. Every human is the child of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, and if a man marries a slave, he has married none other than a member of his own species. And these slave women should be just not adulterous or such that they foster a secretive relationship. A person should marry only a chaste woman, be she a free woman or a slave. This verse specially makes reference to slaves in this regard, since they are more susceptible to sinning due to the fact that the nature of their work demands that they leave their homes. Once they enter into marriage and then perpetrate lewdness, adultery, they should be given half the punishment applicable to free women. This refers to the punishment given to unmarried free women who would normally receive 100 lashes. The slave woman will therefore receive 50 lashes only. It is obvious that the reference could not be the punishment of a married free person, since their punishment is death by stoning. This penalty cannot possibly be halved. The penalty for a slave man or woman will be 50 lashes, irrespective of their material status. The details of this, inshallah, be discussed at length in Surah Nur. This is for those of you from whom you fear adultery. It is best for you to be patient, and Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. This verse means that marriage to slave women is for those men who cannot afford to marry a free woman and who fear that they perpetrate fornication if they do not marry. It will be best, though, if he remains patient and controls his desires. Now, verse number 26. يريد الله ليبين لكم ويهديكم سنن الذين من قبلكم ويتوب عليكم والله عليم حكيم. Allah wishes to explain to you, guide you to the practice of those before you, and forgive you. Allah is all knowing, the wise. 27. والله يريد أن يتوب عليكم ويريد الذين يتبعون الشهوات أن تميلوا ميلا عظيما. Allah wishes to forgive you, and those who follow their desires only wish that you fall into gross deviation. Verse number 28. يريد الله أن يخفف عنكم وخلق الإنسان ضعيفا. The translation of this verse is Allah wishes to unburden you, and man has created weak. The first verse explains that the injunctions commanded by Allah are for man's benefit. Allah also explained the practices of previous nations so that it be understood that they were also required to carry out His injunctions, which they fulfilled. Allah wishes to forgive you, therefore, seek forgiveness from Him, and those who follow their desires wish that you fall into gross deviation. These people have no concern for shame and chastity, so they indulge in all forms and lewd acts, wishing that the Muslims also will follow them in their ways. They detest that the Muslims adhere to modesty and sober behavior without losing sight of Allah's injunction. They desire that all become slaves of their passions instead. The Muslims should hold fast to his deen so that these people do not deter him from the truth. They should guard against those who aim to plunge them into the abyss of immorality by using novels, TV, films, and videos. Allah wishes to unburden you, make your task easier, and man has been created weak. Allah is aware of man's inherent weakness and has passed such laws that are within the ambit of his capability. Allah has not only permitted marriage but instructed it. Then too, man is allowed up to 4 wives. Meher has been ordained so that the woman is also accorded some status. Man is also permitted to derive benefit from slave women, be he married to them or not. Allah allows these and other concessions because of man's weakness. At the same time, man was also not left totally free. Certain restrictions govern his life. While he may derive benefit from women, he may do so only within wedlock, abiding by certain injunctions. If these were not observed, man would be not better than an animal, and he would lose his status as the best of creation. Such has become of the despicable lot of those who choose not to abide by the laws of Sharia. Such people shy away from being human beings and have wandered into the depths of bestiality, the flood of immorality, promiscuity, and depravity that has invaded Europe and America has left people of all social echelons floundering in its wake. It is common with a Occidental system of legislation that they pass a law on trial. When it is noticed that people cannot abide, these laws are amended. Although rape is outlawed in their constitution, adultery and fornication are allowed without restraint. Now they have also permitted homosexuality and lesbianism, and even their religious and social leaders indulge in these obscenities. They fit perfectly in the following declaration of Allah. As for the disbelievers, they enjoy themselves and eat like the animals eat. The fire shall be their abode. Verse number 12. And the surah is Surah Muhammad. Today, even the Muslim countries perpetrate the evils learned from their kufr tutors. Not only do Muslims commit these in these senses, but they have formed organizations to promote the abolition of nikah. Magazines are published weekly and monthly promoting immodesty and by displaying pictures of naked men and women. These publications incite the passions and inducing people to fornicate. Previously, romantic films were screened only in cinemas. Then, por- pornographic scenes were gradually introduced until today. The most licentious scenes are flagrantly shown. Now, the same promiscuous programs are common in every home after the introduction of TV and videos. The old and young have all been subjected to this indecency. The matters have deteriorated to such an extent that parents watch these scenes with their children and even encourage it. There is no difference between the movies produced in Islamic countries and those produced elsewhere. People who appear to be religious do not prevent their children from purchasing these devices of sin that are so commonly available. The minds of people have become inundated with scenes of nudity and immorality. People still adhering to their staunch religious roots cannot hope to influence the new generation who refuse to listen to the Quran and Hadith. People have been swept to such an ebb that a colossal effort will have to made to turn the height. In times gone by, a person who committed adultery was scorned by society and would never make his actions known. Nowadays, chastity is frowned upon and fornication receives favorable publicity. Every prophet ﷺ taught morality and chaste behavior to his nation. Hazrat Abu Ayyub Ansari Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, four traits were common in all the Anbiya alayhi salam, that is, one, modesty, two, applying perfume, three, brushing the teeth with the miswak, and four, nikah, narrated by Tirmizi. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, every religion has a unique character. That of Islam is modesty, narrated by Mishkat, page number 432. Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, modesty and iman are one and the same thing. If either of the two is removed, the other will not exist. The truth of above statement is evident. Those nations that do not possess modesty do not have iman, and the iman of those Muslims who are losing their modesty is also dwindling. Many Muslims who live in Western countries are being robbed of their iman, and soon their progeny will be totally bereft of any sign of iman. The first restriction Islam placed in this regard was the gardening of one's gaze. Women are commanded to remain within their homes, and if they need to emerge, they must conceal themselves in the hijab and must not apply perfume. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that a woman is an object that needs to be concealed. He said that when she emerges from her home, Shaitan diverts everyone's gaze towards her. narrated by Mishkat, page 269. It is indeed sad that many people claim to be Muslims yet follow the immodest lifestyle of Islam's enemy. The schemes of the enemies are still in motion to further deviate the Muslims and rob them of every fiber of shame. What kind of a Muslim will not take heed of Allah's warning when he exclaims, those who follow their desires wish that you fall into gross deviation. Now verse number 29. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. O you who believe, do not unjustly consume the wealth of each other except if it be by way of trade transacted with mutual consent. Do not kill yourself. Indeed, Allah is most merciful to you. 30. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ عُدْوَانًا وَظُلْمًا فَسَوْفَ نُصْلِيهِ نَارًا وَكَانَ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرًا. Whosoever will do this out of enmity and injustice, we shall soon enter him into the fire. This is all too easy for Allah. The author of Malumat-e-Tanzil, volume 1, page 417, writes that the unjust consuming of wealth referred to in this verse denotes practice such as dealing in usury, gambling, robbery, stealing, misappropriation of trust, and all those methods forbidden by the Sharia. Other commentators interpret to mean all those forms of business transactions that are invalid in the Sharia. The only exception by which the wealth of another is lawful is if it be by way of trade transacted with mutual consent. The condition stipulated in this verse is that both the transacting parties must be satisfied with the transaction, neither must be forced into the deal. It is haram to take someone's property without his or her permission. If the seller is forced to agree on a certain price or forced to sell when he is not willing to, then this will also be haram. The following are not permitted. 1. The transact is swine, lacquer, and carrion. 2. To give or take a bribe. 3. To sell something that does not belong to one. 4. To sell a bird that is still flying in the air or a fish that has not yet been caught. 5. To lie to the customer that he is being sold an item at cost price when it is really not so. 6. Rentals of properties are also considered to be transactions and have to be transacted with mutual consent. Some people perpetrate the sin of forcibly occupying an empty house and then forcing the owner to rent it to them. If he agrees, they then take the liberty to fix the rent even though the owner is unhappy. Such practices are haram. 7. Certain countries have a law whereby the landlord can neither evict their tenants nor raise the rental. It is not permissible for a Muslim to practice this unjust law since it is detrimental to the landlord. Number 8. Some people sell a commodity at a reduced price and then write out a recipient to the effect that it was sold at a higher price. This recipient is then shown to another person who is told that he can purchase it at cost. He then pays the inflected price for the item, thinking that he had bought it at cost. This is cheating and abolished by the Sharia. Do not kill yourself. Some commentators have interpreted this verse to mean that a person should not destroy himself by consuming haram wealth. Such practice will lead only towards destruction in the hereafter. Others are of the opinion that it means that people should not kill each other. Still, another group maintains that it refers to suicide. The broad context of the verse accommodates all of these interpretations, narrated by Malumat Tanzil, page 418. It is indeed unfortunate that in these times murder is extremely rifle. Muslims kill one another because of tribal reasons. The enemies of Islam are always instigating them to fight each other, and the process seems never ending. The warning sounding by Allah against murder will, inshallah, be discussed in the verse of Surah Nisa, where Allah says, "Whoever murders a believer intentionally," verse number 93. The human body and soul are the exclusive property of Allah. Therefore, no person can take his own life. Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "The person who commits suicide by jumping off a mountain will remain in the fire of Jahannam, continuously ascending and then jumping off a mountain. The person who commits suicide by swallowing poison shall remain in the fire of Jahannam with the poison in his hand, swallowing it until eternity. The one who commits suicide using an iron object shall remain forever in the fire of Jahannam, piercing his belly with it." Narrated by Mishkat, page 295. Growing frustrated with the problems of this world, some people resort to suicide, not understanding that the problems and torment of the hereafter are much more severe. Indeed, Allah is most merciful to you. People should regard all Allah's commandments as a blessing to themselves and act upon each of them, even those that appear to be difficult, should be carried out, since their violation will only cause destruction. Whosoever will do this out of enmity and injustice, we shall soon enter him into the fire. The person who kills another for no valid reason shall suffer this pitiable plight. The same shall be the plight of those who commit suicide. None can escape the grip of Allah, neither before nor after death. This is all too easy for Allah. He is capable of anything and all are at His mercy. Verse number 31. إن تجتنبوا كبائر ما تنهون عنه تكفر عنكم سيئاتكم وندخلكم مدخلا كريما. From all the things forbidden to you, if you refrain from the major sins, we shall expiate for your evil deeds and enter you into a place of honor. In this verse, expiation of minor sins is promised if the major sins are avoided. Some people have argued that this verse and numerous others seems to indicate that the person who merely refrains from the major sins must be forgiven, even though the perpetrates major sins and neglect the other duties of Islam. The author of Ruhul Mani, volume 2, page 222 replies to this by saying that forgiveness depends on Allah. If He wishes to pardon a person, He may do so. Otherwise, He is at liberty to punish the sinner. Other commentators maintain that the major sins mentioned in this verse after to all things that lead to kufr. Therefore, if a person abstains from all such actions and dies as a Muslim, Allah will pardon him. All sins, because they are minor by comparison to kufr, will be considered to be minor. This forgiveness is dependent upon the will of Allah. As He says, "Verily Allah will not pardon shirk, but shall forgive all other sins for those whom He will." Verse number 48 of Surah Nisa. Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala reports that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "The 5 salah, one Jummahs to the next and the one Rasulullah and one Ramazan to the next will atone for all the sins committed in between as long as major sins are avoided." Narrated by Muslim, volume 1, page 122. According to another hadith of Muslim, volume 1, page 121, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, "The Muslim who, when the hour of Salah draws nearer, performs a proper wuzu and then observes proper rakah and sajda, these will atone for all his previous sins as long as he does not commit major sins." It will appear from the above hadith that minor sins will be forgiven only when a person abstains from major sins. However, Imam Nawawi Rahimullah clarified the issue. He writes that in the above cases, all minor sins are forgiven and that major sins are not forgiven except with Tawbah and the mercy of Allah. This, he writes, has also been mentioned by Qazi Ayat Rahimullah and is the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jamaat. Hazrat Abdullah bin Masood Raziallah Ta'ala reports that a person once kissed a woman. Regretting his action, he related the incident to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Thereupon, the following verse of Surah Hud was revealed. Establish Salah at the two ends of the day and a portion of the night, where good deeds eradicate evil deeds. The person inquired of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is this glad tidings for me only? The reply was, for all the members of my ummah, narrated by Mishkat, volume 1, page 58. The above verse, as well as numerous hadiths, bear testimony to the fact that the sins are expiated by means of good deeds. Some commentators have explained that the verse under discussion is linked to the previous one. The previous verse warned against unlawfully taking the wealth of another person. They say that the person who sets about to take away the wealth of another by stealing, robbing, etc., then changes his mind. Allah will forgive all the sins associated with this planned action. This is because he, out of fear for Allah, abstained from the major sin that he had originally set out to do. In his book, dedicated exclusively to this subject, Hafiz Shamsuddin Zahabi Rahimullah explained that there exists a difference of opinion with regard to the precise number of major sins. Some maintain that there are 7 based on a hadith of Bukhari and Muslim. He says that this hadith does not restrict them to 7 but merely mention the 7 most serious sins. As there are also different level of their sins, their numbers may increase. According to Hazrat Ibn Abbas Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, they number 70. Allama Qurtubi Rahimullah reports volume 3 page 159 from Hazrat Ibn Abbas Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu that a major sin is that for which Allah has promised Jahannam, His wrath, His curse or some punishment. He is reported to have said that they number close to 700. He says, no major sin remains after repentance and no minor remains if persisted upon, they then become major. Hafiz Zahabi Rahimullah has listed 70 of the major sins together with the punishment of each of them. The title of the book is Kitabul Kabir and one may refer to it for further details. The following list is the list of major sins. 1. Shirk, polytheism and those belief and action that lead to it. The sin of shirk will never be forgiven as was already mentioned. 2. Intentionally killing someone. 3. Black magic. 4. Neglecting the first salah and performing them before time. 5. Not paying zakat. 6. Not fasting in the month of Ramadan without a valid excuse or breaking the fast without an excuse. 7. To die without performing Hajj when one had the means. 8. To hurt someone's parents and to disobey them when their instructions are not contrary to the Sharia. 9. To break family ties. 10. Committing adultery. 11. Committing incest and gratifying sexual passions in an unnatural way. 12. Taking any part in a transaction involving interest. 13. To usurp the wealth of an orphan. 14. To attribute lies to Allah or His Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. 15. To desert the battlefield. 16. For a leader to deceive his subjects. 17. To be proud. 18. To give false testimony or conceal testimony when the right of a person may be saved by it. 19. To consume intoxicants. 20. Gambling. 21. To slander a chaste woman. 22. To misappropriate the booty. 23. Stealing. 424. Robbery. 25. Taking false oath. 26. To oppress in any way, assaults, stealing, verbal abuse. 27. To collect taxes. 28. To utilize haram wealth. 29. To commit suicide and to be severe a limb. 30. Lying. 31. To pass judgment contrary to the Sharia. 32. Bribery. 33. To imitate the opposite gender. Shaving of the beard is also included in this. 34. To be unconcerned about the lewd behavior of one's family. 35. To marry and cohabit with a woman merely so that her husband may take her back after he had issued 3 divorces. This practice is called halala. 36. To be heedless of drops of urine that contaminate one's clothing. 37. To carry out actions to show off. 38. To seek religious knowledge of worldly motives or to conceal this knowledge. 39. To breach a trust. 40. To remind another of a favor done to him. 41. To refute faith, predestination. 42. To spy on others. 43. To carry tales. 44. To curse. 45. To deceive people and not fulfill a pledge. 46. To believe those who predict the future, fortunate teller, etc. 47. To disobey the husband. 48. To make a picture or display it in the house. 49. Upon the death of a person, to wail, slap the face, tear the clothes, shave the hair, or pray for destruction. 50. To rebel against and to harm Muslims. 51. To be tyrannical towards Allah's creation. 52. To harm the neighbor. 53. To harm Muslims and speak ill of them. 54. To harm the pious people in particular. 55. For men to allow any garments to hang or to below the ankles. 56. For men to wear silk garments or gold jewelry. 57. For a slave to abscond from his master. 58. To sacrifice an animal in the name of another besides Allah. 59. To intentionally name another person as one's father. 60. To fight and argue merely to create anarchy. 61. To refuse water to a person in need. 62. To cheat in weight and measurement. 63. To be fearless of Allah's chastisement. 64. To harm the friends of Allah. 65. To be negligent of performing salah in congregation. 66. To omit the Jummah salah without justification. 67. To make a bequest with the express intent of harming and hear. 68. To fashion evil schemes and deceive people. 69. To spy on the confidential matters of Muslims and pass on the information. 70. To swear any of the Sahaba Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhum. Hafiz Zahabi Rahmullah has listed the 70 major sins up to this point. Included in these are many that are well known, but still many others have been omitted. Below shall follow many more major sins are recorded in the book of Allama Zanaduddin ibn Najm Hanafi Rahmullah. This the treaty of his is published at the end of his famous work titled Al Asbah wan Nadahir. Number 1. To become an accomplice to a tyrannical ruler and neglect to enjoin good and forbid evil when able to do so. To learn, teach, and practice black magic. 3. To forget the Quran after memorizing it. 4. To burn any living being alive. 5. To become despondent of the mercy of Allah. 6. To consume carrion or swine without being constrained to do so. 7. To persist in committing major sins. 8. To assist or instigate the commission of sins. 9. To adopt a career in singing. 10. To expose one's private part in front of others. 11. Dancing. 12. To love the world. 13. To speak ill of ulama and those who memorize the Quran. 14. To betray one's leader. 15. To surrender the birth of any person. 16. To invite others towards anything deviant. 17. To point a weapon at another person without justification. 18. To castrate one's slave or sever any part of his body. 19. To show ingratitude to one who has done a good turn, a good Samaritan. 20. To practice apostasy, especially in the haram. 20. To practice 21. To play chess and all such games that are forbidden by census of the Ummah. 22. To use drugs. 23. To call a Muslim a kafir. 24. To be unjust between one's many wives. 25. To masturbate. 26. To cohabit while menstruating. 27. To rejoice at disturbance in Muslim countries. 28. To perform indecent act with an animal. 29. For an alim, religious scholar, not to practice as knowledge. 30. To criticize food. 31. To gaze at a beardless youngsters. 32. To look into or enter the home of another without permission. Certain sins have been omitted from the above list since they passed in the first list of Hafiz Zahabi Rahimullah. Hereunder follows a list of minor sins also compiled by Allama Ibn Najm Rahimullah. Okay, 1. To look at forbidden things. 2. To kiss or touch with desire any woman besides one's wife. 3. To be secluded with a stranger non-mahram woman. 4. To use utensils made of gold or silver. 5. To abstain from speaking to another Muslim for more than 3 days. 6. To intentionally laugh while performing salah. 7. To urinate while standing. 8. To wail, slap the face, or tear clothing when some calamity occurs. 9. To walk proudly. 10. To associate with a sinner. 11. To perform salah during the makruh time. 12. To take any impurity into the masjid or any person, child, or insane when there exists a strong possibility of impurity being on his body or clothes. 13. To sit facing the Qibla or facing the back towards the Qibla when urinate or leaving oneself. 14. To expose one's private part for no reason even when in seclusion. 15. To fast for days continuously without breaking the fast in between. 16. To do cohabit with one's wife before paying the kufara of zihar. Refer to the beginning of Surah Mujadala, Surah number is 58 in the Quran for the details of zihar. 17. For a woman to travel without her husband or a mahram. 18. To make a high bid for an item one does not intend to buy merely to inflate the price for those interested in buying. 19. To keep necessary commodities in storage without selling them, waiting for the price to increase. 20. To make an offer to purchase something or to marry a woman after another person has already done so. 21. To buy out a merchant who is due in present commutation so that one may monopolize the market. 22. To buy out commodities from the rural areas before they reach the town so that one may sell them at an inflated price. 23. To engage in trade after the azan for the Jummah Salah has been given. 24. To sell an item without disclosing its defects. 25. To raise dogs for reasons beside that of protection and grazing animals. 26. To skip over the shoulders of people when entering the masjid. 27. To delay the payment of zakat. 28. To inconvenience road user by engaging in trade or using the road as a toilet. Similarly, it will also be sinful to use such places as toilet that people frequent or to use water sources for this purpose. 29. To give the azan to enter the masjid while in the state of impurity, janabat. 30. To place the hands on the hips or fidget with something while performing salah. 31. To turn the head and look around while performing salah. 32. To engage in worldly talk while in the masjid or any such activities that are not considered to be ibadah, acts of worship. 33. For a fasting person to kiss and embrace highness spouse when there is a danger that they will engage in sexual relation, thereby breaking their fast. 34. To pay zakat from wealth of an inferior quality. 35. To sever the entire head from the body of the animal being slaughtered. 36. For a mature woman to marry without the consent of her guardian. 37. For a husband to issue more than one divorce at once. 38. To issue a divorce while the wife is menstruating. 39. To issue a divorce during the wife's period of purity, tahur, the period between menstrual cycle when intercourse took place during the same period of tahur. 40. To favor some of one's children above the rest unless there exist some legitimate grounds. 41. For a judge not to treat the plaintiff and defendant equally. 42. To accept a gift from or to partake of the food of a person whose wealth is ill gotten. 43. To walk on the land of a person without his permission. 44. Multi to mutilate any living being. 45. To make sajda on a picture of an animal object when performing salah or to perform salah with such pictures in the vicinity. 46. To greet a kafir with the words of salam. 47. To clothe a child in such attire that is not permissible for a grown person to wear. 48. To continue eating after being satiated. 49. To think ill of a Muslim. 50. To listen to frivolous talks. 51. To listen to a backbiter without reprimanding him. 52. To lead people in salah against their wishes when they are unhappy with the Iman for some reasonable grounds. 53. To speak while the Jummah khutbah sermon is being delivered. 54. To place impurities on the roof of masjid or on the road leading to the masjid. 55. To make a promise to someone without intending to fulfill it. 56. To joke with or praise anyone exclusively. 57. To become angry without a reason that is valid in the Sharia. The above list includes those sins that are common amongst people. Other sins mentioned by Allama Ibn Najm Rahimullah have been omitted for the sake of brevity. Some of the minor sins mentioned in the list are debatable, like the sins of not speaking of a Muslim for more than 3 days. It should be included in the major sins because the hadith severely reprimands such behavior. Various ulama differ in their specification of minor sins. Hafiz Zahabi Rahmullah included in his list the sins of nullifying Hajj, Umrah, and Salah without valid reasons. Allama Ibn Najm Rahmullah, however, has not listed there in his list. Many other sins have been omitted from the above list that have been mentioned in the ahadith. Minor sins are nonetheless sins and have to be avoided. Hazrat Aisha Raziyallahu Ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, abstain from the minor sin as well because they will also have to be accounted for. Allah has appointed angels to record these as well. Narrated by Mishkat, page 458. So the lesson from this is a minor sin will be considered minor when a person commits it while fearful of Allah. However, if he commits a minor sin heedlessly, thinking that it is a small thing, then this sin will be considered to be a major sin. Similarly, a minor sin will be considered a major sin when it is persistently practiced. To ignore and attach no importance to the warnings sounded in the Quran and Hadith constitutes kufr, irrespective of whether the warning is for a major or minor sin. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.